Look who just got up and all pretty and pink. I'm going to nurse her while I chat with you today. So excited to be here with you on this Tuesday morning. I'm already thinking ahead to Thursday because I got something really fun planned for them. Today's Tuesday, though. The week's flying by. And today I have on my heart to share with you why do I do this Big Family Mom stuff? So you may have heard, or maybe you're catching this inside of the Big Family Moms Facebook community that I set up. Gosh, it was only in June of last year, June of 2021, with 23 members. And you may not know this about me, but I hadn't really not been on Facebook in any meaningful way for 5 years prior to that. I posted maybe like one baby picture every 2 years, every time I had a baby. There's other reasons I'm not going to get into right now, but like things started to cook up. You might have noticed about 2016 on Facebook, and it became like this drunken party. Maybe it was just the friends I was keeping, or I don't know, but it became a very, just like a hostile environment. It was unpleasant. People were just nasty with each other on their walls, and I was just like, blah, I don't even want to be here. It just wasn't worth my time, and I just felt like tension every time I got on Facebook. Or okay, gonna be totally honest, I'd scroll. I would just scroll and scroll and scroll and I was really just bored, looking for something, looking for distractions, and I wasn't using Facebook in a healthy way. So it's very ironic. And there's a story I'm going to share with you today of why I'm now back on Facebook. Why do I have a Facebook group, a community called Big Family Moms that has grown from 23 like friends of mine that I personally invited back in June to now we're about to hit 1,400 this week. Growing like, what is it called? Gangbusters. It's like it's growing and growing, growing. Women are finding out that there's a Big Family Moms community with a Christian Heart Center to help other women grow in grace and skill, especially as Big Family Moms, which by Western standards right now is really just 3+ children. That's considered big. I was just joking today with a friend that, yeah, 3 is considered big. Once you get over that, you're just huge. You're just considered a huge family. I have 11, and I didn't start out that way. So I'm going to share with you a little bit today. If you haven't heard a little bit of my own backstory, I'm just going to share with you today because it really is why I'm doing it. Why am I bothering to be on Facebook at all? Like, I have 11 children. I homeschool. We run 2 businesses. Why would I take any time out of my Big Family Mom life to do this at all? Well, there's a reason. I'm going to share it with you today. So let me just get her all hooked up and then we'll get into it. It's like story time with Tara. So let me just make sure I'm not completely exposing myself live on camera. Not that I'm worried about really that. I'm pretty relaxed when it comes to nursing in public. But not going to give a full nip view right on live on camera. So here we go. Why did I do this? Why do I do this at all? Because it does take time and energy for me and a certain amount of stress, right? Because once you get into a community of over 1,000 women, yeah, it does take some administration. And sometimes there are posts or, conversations that I have to make sort of executive decisions on what I'm going to do with all of that. So backing up, this time last year, I was pretty just like at a crossroads in my own life for a couple different reasons. And I came across a mentor. There's a whole other story how I came across her in the first place, but I'm making this short for the sake of brevity. And yeah, I was introduced to a really great mentor who challenged me to serve in a way that I already knew how. And I was like, well, what do I know? What do I know about anything? Like I've gone to post-secondary. I've got a BA in cross-cultural studies, went to Bible college. But since then, I'm just a mom. And I didn't realize that that's something I actually thought about myself, that years and years ago, when I was first became a mom, oh man, we were in Bible college at the time. My oldest is 17. I didn't realize how much of my mind had junked up, messed up thinking. I had some extremely low views of myself and of marriage and of motherhood. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I became a mom. And we had 3 under 3 because God blessed us with twins. And all of a sudden, everybody started to ask us, well, are you done? And I had felt like we had just started. And we had a number in our mind because even backing up further, when we went to premarital counseling a few years earlier, my husband and I, here at our like local church that, years ago, we're at a different church. So I'm not, dragging anyone through the mud here or anything. I want to be discreet. Yeah, it was just a normal question to be like, well, how many children are you going to have? It was just normal. And the idea had never occurred to me to embrace children as a blessing in the sense of taking my hands off the wheel, barring massive medical, really serious life and death level kind of circumstances. So it wasn't culturally normative, not in the church, not anywhere. I didn't know anybody. And quite frankly, deep down inside, I thought those people were kind of crazy. I would rather be a missionary, a martyr, literally anything else. God, please, please don't call me to have a big family. Like, why? What was I so scared of? And I never thought about it until what I call that night when God challenged me when our twins were 5 months old. Our little 2-year-old daughter was down the hall. So 3 kids under the age of 2. She's sleeping. We're sleeping. We should all be sleeping. And my husband and I ended up having an absolute life-changing conversation that night. Turns out for the past many months, since people started asking us, well, are you done? Are you done? Are you having any more? You got your girl, you got your 2 little boys, you got the perfect family. And in missions, people aren't going to want to support a big family. So better get something done about that. Like we were getting too many RPMs on the car or something, better go in the engine there and just start chopping away and cutting tubes, because you don't want any more of those things coming down to you. They might cramp your style, ruin your life, make fundraising difficult, any number of fear-based reasons. But God was after my heart and he stirred me up, and I was like, honestly, I was like, stop talking. I don't want to hear this anymore. This is like my conversation between me and God. I was like Jonah. Just, I don't even want to hear this conversation. God, don't challenge me with scripture. Don't talk to me. But everywhere I went, he was hunting me down in the most gracious of ways. Like every song we sang at Sunday morning service, every magazine I picked up, even this one old lady, this beautiful retired missionary, gave me a handful of Above Ruby's magazines, which I'd never even heard of before. You might have heard of them if you're in the big family community. And I was disgusted and drawn to them at the same time. I would read them, this family, Bible centered big family, looking at the pictures of these families with like 10, 11 or more children, some of them adopted, some of them, fostering. Many of them just had really gargantuan families. And I was like, I don't want that. Why? And I never wanted to explore why. But finally, we surrendered our trust to God, handed over the wheel when the twins were 5 months old, and then my life changed ever since then. And it wasn't like magic the next day when I woke up and I was like, okay, letting go of birth control, letting go of all forms of birth control, trusting God for my next and all other pregnancies. And I'd had 2 C-sections in a row, and I've had all C-sections since then. We just lay it down and trusted God with our big family. And I knew mathematically I could hit 12 kids by 45. And well, I'm at 11 and I turned 44 this September. So my math wasn't off. So that's a little bit about me. Like I said, my thinking was so messed up that I really didn't want to be a big family mom, but I never asked why. And it turned out I had tons of fears and assumptions about motherhood in general, about big family moms specifically. I thought my life was going to suck, to use the kids' term. It was going to be terrible. It was going to be ruined. I would be lost. I would have no friends. I would have no life. My physical health would be depleted, if not destroyed. My body would no longer be attractive to my husband. Our sex life would be ruined. I would just be a baby making, baby nursing machine. And that deep down inside, and just being totally honest, that I would resent God, resent my husband, resent my children, and that I would live a life of quiet, resentful based servitude, and that God had called me to something that I would deep down hate. Wow. Oh my gosh. Even hearing myself say it, but I'm being totally honest, because it's why I'm here today. Why do I do this big family mom stuff? Because over the next few years, and it was years, and I'm still a work in progress, right? As I work out my fear with trembling, and as the Lord is so good to transform me by the renewing of my mind, He is sanctifying me by His grace, by showing me from His word primarily. And occasionally, very occasionally, I've bumped into another big family who are like us, embracing the children as blessings from God and trusting Him with all the logistics and all of what that means physically, financially, emotionally. Sanity, is there a word for that? Like in terms of my own sanity and all the logistics of baby family life. But I had really nobody to talk to. Nobody in our church at the time had more than 5 children. There was one family, 5 children, and boom, they were done, because the last one they had was Down syndrome. And again, not knocking the family, but they chose to stop having children. They did just boom. And it was like a don't talk to us about it anymore kind of conversation. Door closed, done. So there's nobody to talk to. And it was so lonely being a big family mom. I knew that we were committed to having a large family and that Lord willing we would. And like I was pretty fertile and I wasn't experiencing infertility. Um, when we announced we were pregnant with our fourth child, when my oldest was only 3, we got a standing ovation when I announced the twin pregnancy. Same church. I announced we were pregnant again less than a year like after they were born. It was one of the most awkward cringe moments I've ever experienced in my life. Hardly anybody clapped. It's like one person started to clap, but then nobody knew what to do or say. It was like one of those like stand up if you moments at church in the Protestant church, and share something that you want to praise God for. So it was perfect time to make an announcement that we were expecting another blessing from the Lord. But I realized there was this weird boat we just started rocking or a glass ceiling that we just hit. And all of a sudden, where people were overjoyed when we announced we were pregnant for the second time with twins, we announced we were pregnant for the third time with baby number 4. Yeah, there were just like these awkward looks. And then after the service in like the lobby where people have like, coffee and chat and put on their coats and it's kind of crazy mayhem. Yeah, so many people started talking to us about their vasectomies and just how their life was so much better and how as if we never heard of vasectomies or something. It it just I felt doubly lonely, and I did not even know how to engage in those conversations. I didn't know how to talk. I felt sick to my stomach because here I was with a living child in my womb, first trimester. We just found out, so it's maybe like 7 weeks along. And instead of people saying, "Congratulations, when are you due? Are you gonna find out if it's a boy or a girl?" The usual polite questions that people ask when they're, genuinely happy for you, or at least being polite. People were like, it was a totally different emotional, psychological experience. And this was in the lobby of my church with dear, dear Christians who love the Lord and love me. And all of a sudden, this topic, I didn't even know. It was honestly the first time I had ever had like a deep theological disagreement with a fellow Christian. Until then, and I go to Bible college, and I knew there's plenty of things that are controversial, and people disagree within the broader Christian world, particularly in the Protestant churches, that there are divisions of theology, and some of them quite significant. But I had never realized that there was what I consider to be a golden calf called children and the blessing thereof. People want blessings of all kind, right? Blessings of wealth, blessings of health. Lord, they wouldn't turn away another car. They wouldn't turn away another, couple $1,000s a year, or certainly having like really good health. But if God said, will you will you trust me? Will you honor me? Will you serve me with 2 more children or 6 more children? Will you lay down your life as a living sacrifice and raise up these children in my name, like unto me? Whatever that looks like. Obviously, I don't control their futures, but powerful influence on them as they're growing up. And I used to cringe from that. And God had changed my heart so much and rooted out so much of my messed up thinking, my fears, my very low view of motherhood. He had done such a good work in my heart. And it was because of the pain of experiencing that blowback, backlash in the church that I dove into the word. I was like, I don't even know how to have these conversations. I can't even believe these conversations have to be had. But Lord, you brought me to this. I thought I was going to be a missionary, and now I'm going to be a mom. I'm getting emotional. I'm going to be a mom. And I already was a big family mom by Western standards. And I'm like, Lord, if you trust us with 10, 12 more children, I will do that with pride, like with godly pride. I will do that with excellence. I will do that unto you. And even if I'm misunderstood, even if there are weird, awkward, cringy, theologically kind of messed up conversations that happen from time to time with people who otherwise love you and I love them. But oh my gosh, there's something wrong in the West, something wrong in the Western church that so many Christians run like I did from even the idea of embracing children as a blessing. So I felt this deep calling, but I kept it pretty private. I just lived my life, 15 years, 16 years, 17 years ago. I just lived my life quietly having conversations. Then along comes a mentor and says, Tara, would you be willing to step it up and serve in a bigger way than you ever thought of before? And to do that in a way that you really genuinely help other big family moms like you who feel so disconnected, so lonely. They're like you, like 15 years ago when you were right at that cusp, that changing. Would you be willing to connect with them and help them and serve them? Serve them freely, serve them with, yeah, I got some paid courses, but serve them, help them the way you wish you'd been helped. And I was like, I would love to. I would be honored to. I I love that God took me of all totally unqualified people and did such a good work in my heart and my life and has given me a level of experience now that I'm 17 years into this. I mean, I'm not God's gift to mankind. I'm still a human being and I'm still growing and learning and growing in his grace. But I said, I will. I really felt like God was calling me and saying, will you? Go to the place that you ran away from. Go back to Facebook and connect with other women who, like you, feel so lonely, so disconnected because we're all over the world. But turns out, I checked last week, there's over 4.9 million families with 3+ children in the United States alone. That doesn't mean all of them are Christian, doesn't necessarily mean all of them are embracing the blessing of children the same way I've described, but there are a lot of big families out there who are lonely, craving support, craving encouragement, edification, education that's tailored and zoomed in and especially like customized for us big families, us weirdos who sometimes can feel like weird people, even in our own church communities. Even right now, I'm maybe one of two large families in my entire present church, which is a different church than the one I was referencing to. No hard feelings, just life happens, you move, whatever. So I created a big family moms community on Facebook. I hated Facebook, but I decided I didn't have to be friends with people who were total jerks, and I could unfriend people and block them if they were total jerks. I didn't have to scroll for hours. I could grow in grace and self control, and I have. And so I've created a big family moms group now to serve in a place of something I already knew, but I've learned it in such an ironic, so God kind of way. So if you're catching this for the first time and you're like, oh, where do I get into this community? There's a link below where I called it Big Family Moms overcoming struggles, growing in grace. And I'm about to make a tag change and skill together because there's the two sides of grace, like God's grace, right? To do this because God, I need you every hour. I need you to do this as a big family mom, where you just have maybe two kids. You're like, I'm not technically a big family mom, but I like you girls. Can I hang out with you and learn from you? Because you seem to know what's, this mom stuff. So it's not like super exclusive, but it is primarily tailored with content for big family moms. And that's really just 3+ children. So there's the grace side of it, and then there's skill, learning and skills. So got all kinds of free stuff, free guides of like how do I do more videos like the one I've shared today of just tips and the tricks and the advice. And then also just a forum where other big family moms can pose their questions and get input and advice from a variety of other big family moms and make friendships and connections. And it doesn't feel so lonely anymore. We've got each other. And I love that I get to be part of that. I get to provide leadership to that. So it's not a free for all forum where there's like no kind of admin or anything, and it turns into hot topics and sometimes just nasty cat fights. Because yeah, in a group with over 1,000 women, there's going to be a range of theological perspective and life experience. So I've created an environment that by my example and also by upholding, for example, in the group rules that let people know about, this is a place to edify, to educate, and to encourage. And I love it so much. I actually like being on Facebook now, though I watch my scrolling. I have certain hours of the day I do this. Otherwise, I still have a family to take care of and a home to run and some businesses to take care of. So I just want to let you know, this is why I'm doing this. This is my heart. If you're just like, oh, how did this come up? Well, there's a story. And it's so God. And I love what he's doing. And I'm excited for what he's going to do. Sometimes I get a little bit nervous. I feel a little bit like this is happening really fast. The group is growing fast. Lord, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing a good work. Trust me. And I'm like, well, I trusted you with my life, my room, my family size, and all of what that meant. I'll trust you in this too. So if you're already part of the Big Family Moms group, I love you so much. I'm so glad we connected. Feel free to put a comment below and let me know, what does this community mean to you? I'm so glad to connect with you. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up here because I'm going a little bit longer than usual. This is very obviously a passionate thing in my heart. Like I said, I'm going to make a quick edit to the cover photo today because I realized really it's two sides. There's growing in the grace and there's growing in the skill. And with those two things together, all things are possible. Being a big family mom, suddenly I'm not scared anymore. And when I do get scared, like I just told you, I get scared. Of course, I still experience fear. I'm human. But then he reminds me, like, was it the Ebenezer when the Israelites set up that rock to remind themselves of how the Lord has provided in the past? And because I have grown in grace and I have grown in skill, and now I'm giving from that place, he reminds me that I can learn new things. I can learn how to administrate a group of over 1,000 women that I have every reason to think it's easily going to hit over 10,000 by the year's end. It's growing that fast. And it's exciting. And I love that we get to be part of it together and grow in grace, overcome struggles, learn new things together. And I love that I get to share with you. So, last thing before I go, if you haven't heard yet, I just dropped yesterday a completely free mini course. Talk about education. I dropped a mini course. It's totally free called Big Family Heart to come alongside you wherever you're at in your own big family mom journey to encourage you. This is the foundation of how I do it every day. Because a lot of women are looking for help with organization, with routines, with just staying calm, the logistics, right? Which is, I totally get that. However, I felt it was a disservice that if I didn't start with the foundation, because if you're just trying to like add organization skills, but you haven't really looked at some foundational stuff and gotten that in place, it's shaky, right? It's not going to stick. And it's frustrating when you've taken time or spent money to learn a new skill, but it's not sticking. So I created Big Family Heart, and I'm giving it away as a gift freely to help you get that foundation placed first. And then the logistics of organization, of routine, of working on your calm and teaching it to your children so that your home is a little taste of heaven rather than a taste of hell. Well, that stuff is in place. So I put the link in today's video as well. Big Family Heart, the foundation of Big Family Home. My gift to you. God bless you. I have totally gone over my normal time, but this was deeply from my heart. And so I wanted to give it the time I felt it deserved. So I'm going to pop out. I'm going to switch sides is what I'm going to do because she's ready to take up. Say bye, Corey. Good to see you. Really quick before I go, let me check the chat. Oh, good morning, Cindy. Taco Tuesday. Yeah, you know what day it is on my food calendar. Let's see what Cindy was saying. Recently, you had a young mom tell you the reason they had just one is so they can give him anything and everything he wants. Right. It's like, I call that the little emperor syndrome. And it can be, right, the desire to give your children good things, which is biblical, and yet sacrificing God's calling to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and to trust him with our wombs that he created as us women distinctly created in his image, and having fruitfulness in our marriage as a picture of Christ in the church, welcoming the fruit of the womb as gifts from him. So thank you, Cindy, for saying it's a fantastic group. Yeah, totally. I wish it was around too when I was young. That's why I created it. And I'm so glad you're finding grace and support in listening to my lives. Cindy's great because you're saying, Cindy, you have like a sewing room and you always kind of have your little notifications going off. So she can catch my lives awesome all the time. And I see some other people are catching this live. So great to be here with you. Like I said, I'm going to pop out. I'll see you in the Big Family Moms group. And remember, Big Family Heart, if you haven't got it, it's totally free. Click, click. It's yours. I'll talk to you later.